If I'm being honest, almost every great opportunity that I've had in my life has been because I knew somebody. This is Your Business Needs a Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Lee, and the founder of Provision Podcasts. This is the show where I try to convince you in 5 minutes or less how podcasting can help you grow your business and have a little bit more fun. And so if you're ready, let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to Your Business Needs a Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Lee, and today we are talking about reason number 3 why your business needs a podcast. And that's because a podcast is a networking machine. Now, here's a quote from an unknown author, and it goes, "If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with others." Now, in business, we're always talking about the importance of networking. We've got to network. We've got to get out there. We've got to form relationships. We got to get on LinkedIn. We got to go to conferences, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like just networking is like the lifeblood of business. And so let me just share a couple ways that I've seen that podcasting really helps with networking. So first, podcasting just naturally lends itself to leveraging your existing network. Right? That a lot of times on podcasts, we like to have guests. And so who are you going to ask to be a guest on your show? Well, it's going to be your existing network. Other people in the industry or just connections that you have that can lend their knowledge and experience to your audience. And the great thing about this is being able to invite your network onto your show is really a win-win. That it's a great opportunity for you to promote one another. Here's another quote from Keith Ferrazzi, and he says, "The currency of real networking is not greed, but generosity." And so if you invite people within your network, other professionals, onto your show, it's really a generosity to them because it gives them an opportunity to demonstrate their knowledge, their thought leadership. It gives them an opportunity to publicize their business or their services if it's relevant to your audience. But then in turn, that gives them an excuse to promote you and your business and your podcast and your own expertise. And so really it's a win-win and a great way for you to not just leverage your existing network, but to actually maintain and maybe even build those relationships, right? It gives you an excuse to call them and connect with them. So leveraging your existing network. But also podcasting is an incredible tool for growing your network. And here's the thing, people love being guests on a podcast, most people. And so you will be amazed how having a podcast and being able to reach out to other experts or other people that you have really been wanting to connect with, that you're hoping to maybe start a relationship with, or have some sort of knowledge that you would like to have access to and give your audience access to, you'll be amazed at how willing and open people are to be guests on a podcast, especially if your podcast is, of a certain quality, fits their industry or their particular area of expertise. But honestly, there are people that you really admire or that you've really been wanting to form some sort of connection with, to network with, who maybe you can't really find an in with them now. But if you had a podcast, you'd be surprised to find how many of those people would respond to you. And in fact, not only is it an opportunity for you to grow your network with other professionals in your industry, but there are some businesses who actually use the podcast and invite prospects to be guests on the show. That if the audience and the format of your show are suited to it, that you can actually invite people who you're hoping to do business with as guests onto the show, and that could be a first connection with them. And so I guarantee you, you will never have a greater networking tool at your disposal than a podcast. And then lastly, there's always the listener themselves, right? You're not only growing your network by reaching out to other professionals or other people in your industry, you're actively growing your network because you never know who's listening to the podcast. It could be an existing customer, it could be a new customer, but it could also be somebody who you would want to network with. Or somebody who, after listening to a few episodes, really likes you, really likes what you're doing, And when they have an opportunity to make a referral, they're going to think of you. See, you're now in their network. And so as I started the episode with, just about every good thing I've ever had in my life, and not just business, but just all of life, has really come through knowing people, connections. We use the word networking, but really what we're talking about is relationships. And forming relationships and strengthening relationships and finding mutual win-wins with other people, providing valuable content. It's not just good for business. It's good for the soul. And I think often what people find is that when you podcast, it's not just about finding business partners or associates, but oftentimes you're finding friends, or you're strengthening your relationships with those friends that you already have, people who are running the same race as you, people who you are rooting for and who are also rooting for you. And so your business needs a podcast because a podcast is a networking machine. So go start that podcast. Your Business Needs a Podcast is a Provision Podcast production. If you enjoyed this episode, give us a follow, leave us a review, or share this episode with a colleague. And reach out to us if you're ready to look into starting your own podcast. You can find all of our links in the episode description.